Welcome, everyone, into another edition of the Ferrario Face-Off here at Claibs Online. Of course, I'm Alex Ferrario, pre- and post-game host for the St. Louis Blues, along with my good buddy Mike Claiborne. As Blues have officially been eliminated from the postseason, they've done their exit interviews. There's been plenty of conversation about this team, and I guess, Claibs, let's just start with the elephant in the room. Blues weren't good enough to beat the Colorado Avalanche, and frankly, the Central Division's not going to be easy going into next season when you think of Colorado, who's advanced into the second round. You got the Minnesota Wild, who have forced a Game 7 with the Vegas Golden Knights, and you have Nashville, who's close to advancing, and the Winnipeg Jets, who have already advanced into the next round.
Yeah, it won't be easy. There is no doubt about it. But, we saw this coming. I think you and I talked about it at the beginning of the year. There was something that was lacking. I don't know whether I would use the word character or not, but certainly there was not enough commitment. And that's something that the organization's got to take a long look at. And to me, Alex, one of the things that I thought was important is that management gave these guys a chance to figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
They did everything. They didn't make a lot of deals. They didn't make big trades. They gave everyone in the organization a chance to succeed, and they failed. And I don't blame management. I don't blame coaching. I blame players for not seizing the opportunity. I blame the veterans for not insisting that these young players be better and teaching them how to play. I blame the young players who were blaming everybody but themselves on why they weren't better. And I think overall, there was a lack of leadership. And I don't want to single out Ryan O'Reilly because I thought Ryan O'Reilly led by example. Mm-hmm. But I thought there were other guys who we just didn't hear enough from, and not from a media standpoint, but just overall their performance. And I thought that was part of the big problem that they had. And you're right. They have a lot of work to do in this offseason if they think they can keep up with the teams in front of them.
Chris Kerber told a really interesting story to me the other day, and he said Doug Armstrong at the beginning of the season had told Kerbs and Joey that, he's been getting phone calls from different agents of players on the team that have said, hey, my guy needs more time. And Doug Armstrong joked with Kerbs and Joey and said, well, I feel like I need to call him back and say, well, but I mean, if you think about it, it was a revolving door on the left side for the Blues. Like if you look at the right side, Claibs, it's pretty blatant who those players are for the Blues next season. It's David Perron, it's Jordan Kyrou, and it's Vladimir Tarasenko. But you think of the left side with the unrestricted free agents, Mike Hoffman, Jaden Schwartz, Tyler Bozak. But then on top of it, you have a Zach Sanford who never really grasped his opportunity, nor did Sammy Blais. And I think when you look at those players, you say, okay, there's no more excuses for these guys becoming top 6 or top 9 forwards. They aren't, so we have to find somebody who can be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the experiment has been given a long enough period of time. It's probably time to move on from certain players. It's not that they can't play, they just can't help you.
Right.
And I don't know what more of an urgency issue that we saw this year that didn't get these guys to understand how important it was for them to be able to contribute. So now the question is, where do you get the next group of players from? And I think before you go any further in assessing who the players are, I think we need to figure out what their makeup needs to be. Are they character guys? Are they good in the room? Do they love challenges? Have they been on winning teams? Man, I think that's important to be in a winning organization. And I think that's one of the challenges that Mike Hoffman ran across. He didn't know what it was like to play at that next level, because he'd always been in bad organizations or teams that weren't going anywhere. Now, obviously, Florida found themselves in the playoff this year, but overall, they just weren't that team. And I think that, when you look at guys like Justin Falk, I think he went through it a little bit. Now, granted, Carolina's a good hockey team. I mean, they're a team that could find themselves in the conference finals, if not the Stanley Cup finals. But when he was there, they were kind of going through a little bit of a transition. But you saw him grow into the job. So I think when you look at players that you're going to bring in, you got to find guys who have some sort of reasonable commitment, and they've been able to show it on a team that may be mediocre, and they have that step to be able to move up.
And Doug Armstrong said it yesterday, too, in his media exit interviews. And he said, look, right now, the only thing that matters is that myself and Craig Berube and the coaching staff and the leadership group are all on the same page. Yeah. And when he said that, the first thing I'm thinking of, Claibs, is, well, maybe maybe he just signed Mike Hoffman to bring in Mike Hoffman. Now, that's me assuming something and not knowing actually the facts that go into it. But I do think there needs to be a conversation this offseason between the coaching staff and the general manager and sit there and decide, okay, do we want to be a speed-oriented team with guys like Torrey Krug and Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, kind of like how the Colorado Avalanche beat you this season and Vancouver beat you last season in the bubble? Or do we want to go back to that heavy style? Because if you go to the heavy style, I think you have to get a full commitment from your entire roster. And I don't know if there was buy-in. Even Craig Berube said the net front presence offensively, he said, I don't know if it was the injury situation or if it was just a want from the players, but he said there wasn't enough buy-in throughout the season.
Oh, I think he's right. I think that there was some confusion and some challenges to the system with regard to how things are going to unfold. And I look back and I look at the team, and they're kind of tweeners. I mean, you don't really have enough size to play a heavy game, especially on the blue line, and you don't have enough guys with real speed that can beat a defenseman, and you don't have enough guys who want to make the commitment to going to the net. I mean, right. So, you kind of like you're short on some of those areas. And I think that they've got to make a decision on how do we get these guys, or do we find enough guys who actually can be part of what we do and what our personality is. And I think you touched on it earlier about the heavy game compared to the speed game. What is your makeup? And that also includes what physical presence are you going to provide? When you look at the playoffs, and while Vegas is a physical team in their own right, you need to have some guys on your bench that can make people accountable. Now, Kyle Clifford was brought in to do that. I think he got put in some different roles where he wasn't as effective as I think they thought he would be. But I thought his leadership as far as going through the wars probably helped more, but there's no statistic for that. So you've got to make sure you have a physical presence. I don't think you can be a bunch of speed skaters and just think all you can do is, well, they can't hit what they can't catch, because eventually, especially in the playoffs, they do catch you.
Yeah. It's an identity crisis, Claibs.
Yeah.
I mean, that for me is what really sticks out. And I heard Kevin Weeks, who was with you, Claibs Online, talking about it as well. He mentioned that watching that Blues team in the playoffs, it just didn't look like the team that we were used to, right? Like it looked like you just said, it looked like a bunch of in-betweeners, to where you'd have a couple of players that were going in the forecheck, like a Braden Shen, guys who were going to the front of the net like a Ryan O'Reilly, guys who were getting shots off like Tyler Bozak. But then you'd have that second tier of players that were trying to, but yet it was just perimeter hockey against that Colorado Avalanche team. And look, I for one can say, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree, Colorado is going to be an awesome team for the next 5 years. But they do have areas that are beatable, and I think the Blues just couldn't exploit those in that first round of the series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Colorado continues, because at some point they're going to have some cap issues. They have too many good players to pay. Mm-hmm. So you wonder what their minor league organization looks like. But to your point, the Blues have to make a decision on certain people. And I think one of the guys they had to make a decision on is Mike Hoffman. Yeah. As I last checked, the Blues don't have any other bona fide goal scorers, and I don't include Tarasenko in that conversation.
Right.
I think the other guy that I think you have to find a way to keep with expansion around the corner is Ivan Barbashev, because he's a multiple faceted player. I mean, he can do so many things. He can play on the first line. He can play on the fourth line. He plays the body. He's a good skater. He makes players around him better. What his role is going to be, we just don't know. But I think you better have one of those guys like that. If not, you're going to find yourself in trouble.
Well, and that's just it, Claibs. I mean, the expansion draft is so intriguing because this, to me, I think the Blues have the biggest and toughest decisions of any teams right now in the National Hockey League because of the depth that they have on players. I mean, you talk about the 7 forwards being protected, and right now it would sit that you're going to probably have to leave somebody like an Oscar Sundqvist or an Ivan Barbashev or a Vladimir Tarasenko exposed. And after hearing Craig Berube talk about Oscar Sundqvist's loss this season yesterday, I mean, he called him a role player. He said when he's on the ice, everyone else seems to follow his lead.
Problem is he's not on the ice enough.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, you didn't have a fourth line or a third line presence in that postseason series against Colorado. If you think about it, Sundqvist and Barbashev together, I think those are two pivotal pieces that if I'm Doug Armstrong, I look at the coaching staff and I say, I don't think we can lose these guys. And I would imagine that the coaching staff agrees with that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You put those two together, they make it difficult for another team to play against you. Now,
Right.
Is that a role where Kyle Clifford is part of that threesome? Because at that point, nobody wants to play against them.
Exactly. That's a fourth line that nobody wants to match up against. And think about that.
But here's the other thing, though. Wait, I'm going to stop you for a second.
Yeah.
We categorize them as a fourth line, but you know what? They'd be a pretty good checking line.
Yeah.
I mean, because they all can skate. Now, granted, Clifford's a little older, but those other two guys can really make it difficult for another team's good line. So that's where I think they're so versatile, which is why you got to find a way to keep them both. So here's what I suggest.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're Seattle, if you're the Blues, you go to Seattle and say, hey, look, we'll make a deal with you so you don't take this guy.
Right.
So here's some other guys you can take, but we'll also throw in an extra draft choice. We'll throw in another player, but these are the guys we would prefer you not taking in the draft.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to go that route.
I think that's a route to definitely go down. But back to the point for the fourth line, Claves. I mean, think about this for a minute. You matched up Ryan O'Reilly's line with that Nathan McKinnon line, and they, no question, struggled on the ice. But if you remember back in 18-19 against Boston, the perfection line of Pasternak and Bergeron and Marchand, everyone was talking about how, this line's going to go off. This line's going to beat the Blues single-handedly.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys weren't noticeable on the ice for a majority of that series because Craig Berube was able to match up the line of Steen, Sundqvist, and Barbashev against them. So if you have Sundqvist and Barbashev on the ice and it's Kyle Clifford on that left side, or even if it's a Dakota Joshua that's playing with those guys, or a Sammy Blais that's playing with those guys, that's the line I think you match them up with the other team's top line. So that exploits those matchups for your lines to where you get some goal scoring.
All right, so give me your protected list.
So right now, man, Claves, I am going to be going through this for the next 7 weeks because I have had so many lists. So right now, for me, I'm going the 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. We all know the goaltender, Jordan Binnington, Parayko, Falk, and Krug. Those are my 3 guys that I'm protecting on D. And then forwards, I'm protecting O'Reilly, I'm protecting Perron, I'm protecting Shen, I'm protecting Thomas and Kyrou, and I'm protecting Sundqvist and Barbashev, which leaves Vladimir Tarasenko exposed. And I know people would be like, oh, man, that's a great decision. My guess is Seattle's not going to take a $7.5 million player who's had 3 shoulder surgeries and has played 9 games in the last 2 seasons. So if that's the case, then you could leave him exposed. If he does get selected, well, then it opens up $7.5 million in cap space for you, and you can have a lot more to do this offseason. But I think there are other players that will be on Seattle's wish list for this expansion draft, and taking Barbashev and Sundqvist away makes their decision a lot difficult.
I don't have a problem with that list. I really don't. And now the issue that come into play is I think we all know Tarasenko can be a little fragile with regard to perception. He was not happy. He wasn't captain. If you say we're going to expose you to the expansion draft, he may pout. He may sulk.
He may want out.
Yeah, he may want out. So what if I give him another year on his contract?
Extend it 1 more year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you expose him and he doesn't get picked up, we'll give him another year.
I would agree with that. And I'm surprised at how many people are ready to ship Vladimir Tarasenko out. Now, I understand it has not been good these last couple of seasons, and shoulder surgeries are always kind of they're always a stressful area. Clibbs, you'll like this comparison for me. I thought about this after Game 4 where Tarasenko scored 2 goals. Vladdy is like hole 18 on a golf course, to where you struggle through hole 1 through 17, where you're like, man, why do I pay money to play this? It's not helping me. I'm stressed out all the time.
Going. Yeah, you're right.
But then you birdie on hole 18 and you walk
you're
away.
Back the next day.
Yeah, you're like, man, I'm Tiger Woods out here. I'm coming back tomorrow and I'm just going to go out here and par this course. That's what Vladimir Tarasenko is.
Now, I think you hit spot on. For me, it's hole number 17.
Yeah.
Because I do well on 17, so on 18, but I felt like I had enough confidence where I want to come back and play. Alex, that's a great analogy. But I think if you're going to keep him, you have to let him know that he is still part of the future.
I agree.
But I like your list. So what players would it be exposed in?
So then, you're
The
going to
household
leave.
names.
So you're going to leave a Sammy Blay at forward exposed, which I don't think anybody's going to be jumping on board with. Now, those unrestricted free agents would be exposed, but basically, if you're Seattle, and let's hypothetically say Seattle selects Jaden Schwartz, well, then
Fine.
you have the opportunity to negotiate with him until free agency opens. So I don't know if Seattle's going to take the risk with that.
Well,
But
I don't think Jaden Schwartz is part of the future.
I don't think so either. I really think, and you know what's funny, and maybe this is me reading between the lines, Claves. When Doug Armstrong talked about Jaden Schwartz yesterday, and he was asked about, are you going to extend him? Doug Armstrong said that, look, we've talked with Jaden Schwartz before the season began, and we expressed how much we wanted him back. The door's open when him and his agent want to come to us. And so reading between the lines, that's Doug Armstrong saying we gave Jaden Schwartz and his agency an offer. He can either accept that or he can go into free agency.
The offer hasn't changed.
And it's not going to change.
I personally would move on. I think he is what he is. He's a solid two-way player, but this team needs a little bit more consistency offensively, and it's not coming from him.
Yeah.
Zach Sanford is another guy I'm ready to move on from. Can he play in the league? Sure he can. But can he help you? No, he can't. We've been looking at him for the last 2+ years, and it hasn't gotten any better. So, and he's been given opportunity. See, that's the other thing. When you hear guys like, well, I never got a chance. And I give you a good example. Who was a kid we shipped? Tage Thompson.
Yeah.
Shipped him off to Buffalo. Well, I never got a chance in St. Louis. Well, you got a chance in Buffalo, and what they do? They sent you out. So I look at this situation where I give Craig Berube a lot of credit for trying to play as many guys as they could. And he didn't have a choice in a lot of cases because of the injury factor. But I think overall it's one of those deals where you saw enough of certain people, so it's time to move on.
See, and the thing with Zach Sanford is, Clives, I know a lot of people weren't happy with Craig Berube playing him in the playoffs every single game, and they wanted to see a Klim Kostin or maybe a Dakota Joshua. But with Zach Sanford, I mean, look, Craig Berube has talked about how he provides on the penalty kill, and they hope that he can get back to that goal-scoring mentality. But I think more so Craig Berube was playing Zach Sanford to say, okay, this is your last shot. Like, if you don't show us that you're a top 9 forward for us, we're going to have other guys in the system that can step up there. I mean, Sammy Blay, who, yes, he's injured, but Sammy Blay has shown that he can score goals. He's going to be an option for you. You're going to bring back Ivan Barbashev and Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas. And then Doug Armstrong was glowing about Klim Kostin for next season. So I don't know if Zach Sanford's got a piece on this team, which he's going to be one of those guys that's available in that expansion draft for Seattle as well.
Well, we wish him the best. I think he's a guy you can move on from. All right, as we wind things down, biggest Blues needs in the offseason, including free agency, the draft. What do you look for them to do?
I'm looking
for trades.
Yeah, that's it. I'm looking for a hockey trade, Claves. I really am. The one area that was the biggest bugaboo for the Blues this season was your top left wing. You did not have a left winger playing with Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron on a consistent basis. I think every single person on that roster had a shot to play there, and it just never clicked. So if I'm Doug Armstrong, I go into this offseason, this championship window that he said is open for 5 years. It's got 2 more years on it. Now is the time to be aggressive. So I think I go into this offseason, I go to the expansion draft, I go to the trade market at the draft, and I say, who needs a change of scenery, right? Kind of like Brett Hall from the Calgary Flames or Jerome McGinley from the Dallas Stars. Who needs a change of scenery? And if I'm Doug Armstrong, I'm going to find a guy who can play with Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron, give me 25 goals consistently, be a goal scorer, but can play that big body style. I don't know who that is, but the biggest need, in my opinion, this offseason is a top left wing for the St. Louis Blues.
And who might that be? Anybody jump out at you?
There's a list that I kind of made the other night. Jacob Silfverberg from Anaheim, not a overwhelming left winger, but he's still a guy who gives you consistently 20 goals a season, so he might be an option. The 2 teams that I'm really looking at that are going to need a change of scenery, Claves, are the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, Pittsburgh, I don't know who would make sense. I know Pittsburgh's talked for so long about getting rid of Evgeny Malkin. Maybe you look at that. Maybe you look at a Jason Zucker from Pittsburgh. But the guy that I'm kind of wondering what they do is Philadelphia with their captain, Claude Giroux. I mean, this is another season that they either didn't make the playoffs or they got bounced in the first round. What would it take for Doug Armstrong to pull off a move to get the captain from Philly, a guy who every season is in the Selke conversation and puts up 30 goals a season? He would be one that I would really be interested in to see if Doug Armstrong can pull a trade off for.
All right, it's going to be interesting for sure. And we will be checking in periodically as we get closer to the expansion draft. We'll talk next time about the playoffs once we get out of this first round.
Yeah.
And just kind of see where we're going. I think everybody kind of misunderstood the Minnesota Wild because everybody already had Vegas and Colorado playing in the next round. Minnesota said, well, wait a minute, we might want to be part of that as well. Some very interesting matchups and some disappointing situations if you're Washington. And, obviously St. Louis, there's some teams out there. I'll tell you, the fun team that I'm enjoying is watching the New York Islanders.
Yeah.
They just come out and they bang everybody. That Clutterbuck, we've seen him for a number of years. He's got a few guys that bang with him. But we'll talk about that in our next round of conversation as the playoffs continue. And certainly, as we mentioned, when we get to the expansion draft and certainly the NHL draft, we'll certainly be on top of that as well.
Yep, Claibs, and I'm sure I'll have a whole new look to my expansion draft protected list for the Blues. And I'm excited to talk with you about the second round because we might be that much closer to a matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. So
oh boy,
I can't wait to see that, Claibs. It's going to be fun these next few weeks going into the expansion draft and into the draft. And, of course, a busy offseason for Doug Armstrong. He's Mike Claiborne. I'm Alex Ferrario. Thank you so much for joining us this season for the Ferrario Face-Off. Plenty more off-season conversations surrounding the Blues and hockey, and you'll find it right here at Claibs Online.